It was a freezing December evening in New York, the kind of night when even the city lights seemed to shiver against the biting wind. People hurried along the sidewalks with scarves wrapped tight around their faces, rushing into the safety of heated apartments, cafes, and warm taxis. But in front of St. Luke's Memorial Hospital, a young nurse sat on the stone steps, hugging her coat around her thin frame. Her name was Emily Carter. 27 years old, once full of dreams and laughter, and now, utterly alone. Her mother had passed away last spring, her father years before that. With no family left and her tiny rented room's landlord evicting her for late payments, Emily had nowhere to go. She had finished her evening shift tending to patients with a smile, even though her own life was unraveling, and now, as snowflakes landed softly on her dark hair, she sat outside because she quite literally had no place else to sit. Inside the hospital, in the quiet VIP wing on the 12th floor, another kind of loneliness lingered. Alexander Hale, one of the city's most successful CEOs, stared out of the large glass windows of his suite. He wasn't ill, he could afford the best doctors and treatment in the world, but he was there because his 6-year-old daughter, Lily, was recovering from pneumonia. Alexander had built an empire of steel and glass, a company that had spread across countries, but when it came to family, he had failed miserably. His wife had left years ago, choosing wealthier thrills over motherhood, leaving him to raise Lily alone. For years he poured himself into work, burying the ache of abandonment in endless board meetings and international flights. Yet when Lily fell sick, he realized for the first time how fragile his fortress was. Money could buy doctors, medicine, and private wards, but it could not buy the tenderness of a mother's touch. He stood there that night, suit jacket folded over the chair, sleeves rolled up, his eyes tired not from work but from nights of sitting by his daughter's bedside. As fate would have it, their two worlds, one crumbling, the other incomplete, were about to collide. Emily had been one of the night nurses tending to Lily over the past week. She had a softness about her that calmed the child more than any foredrip or prescribed syrup. She would hum lullabies, braid Lily's hair gently, and even tell little stories to distract her from the sharp pinch of injections. Lily had begun to smile at her in a way she never did with the other staff. For a child who had grown used to the cold absence of a mother, Emily's warmth felt like sunlight breaking through a long winter. Alexander noticed. He noticed the way his daughter's small hand clung to Emily's, how she whispered secrets to her when she thought no one was listening, and how her fever seemed to ease when Emily was around. He noticed too that Emily never rushed away after her shifts, often sitting quietly by Lily's bed long after the charts were signed. But tonight, when Lily finally slept peacefully and Emily clocked out, Alexander found himself looking through the hospital lobby's wide glass doors and catching sight of her sitting outside, shivering. Something inside him stirred. This woman who had given his daughter so much comfort, why was she sitting alone in the freezing cold? Without overthinking, he grabbed his coat and walked out into the snow. "Emily," he said softly. She looked up, startled. His tall figure in the tailored overcoat seemed out of place against the storm, his dark hair dusted with snowflakes. For a moment, she almost didn't recognize him outside the sterile brightness of the hospital. "Mr. Hale," she stammered, quickly standing. I was just," she didn't know what excuse to make. She couldn't admit she had nowhere to go. "You're freezing," he said, his tone firm but not unkind. "You shouldn't be sitting out here." Emily forced a smile. "I'll be fine." But her lips were blue, and the way her arms clutched her coat told a different story. Alexander studied her face, then her worn shoes, then the small duffel bag beside her. It didn't take a genius to put the pieces together. For years, he had closed himself off from others' struggles, assuming money could solve everything. But tonight, seeing this young nurse, who had cared for his daughter with a tenderness money could never buy, sitting homeless in the snow, cracked something inside him. And then, words escaped his mouth before he even planned them. Words that surprised even him. "You need a home," he said, his voice low but steady. "And I need a mother for my daughter." Emily blinked, stunned. For a moment she thought she had misheard. What do you mean? Alexander took a breath, his eyes not leaving hers. I don't mean this as some reckless offer. I've watched the way you care for Lily. She needs you. And from the looks of it, he glanced at her bag, the frost clinging to her coat. You need someone too. A place. A family. The silence stretched. Emily's throat tightened. No one had ever spoken to her like that, not with pity, not with charity, but with recognition. She shook her head, tears stinging her eyes. Mr. Hale. I'm just a nurse. I'm nobody. You're Alexander Hale. You don't need me. Your daughter doesn't need me. But then, a small voice interrupted from behind the glass doors. Lily, wrapped in her blanket, had woken and come looking for her father. She stood there, pale but smiling faintly. Daddy, she whispered, her eyes darting toward Emily. Can she come home with us? And just like that, the dam inside Emily broke. She crouched down, pressing a trembling hand to her mouth as tears streamed freely. It had been so long since anyone, let alone a child, had wanted her, chosen her. Alexander reached out, gently touching her shoulder. His voice was softer now, almost pleading. I don't mean to overwhelm you. But Emily, I see the way Lily lights up around you. I haven't seen her that happy in years. You've given her something I can't. If you'll allow it, I want you to stay with us. Not just as a nurse. As family. The decision was not easy. Emily spent that night in restless thought, torn between disbelief and hope. Could it be true? Could a life of loneliness shift in a single night? By dawn, as the first pale light crept into the hospital room where Lily slept peacefully, Emily made her choice. She looked at the child, the soft rise and fall of her chest, the way her small hand still clutched Emily's scarf, and she whispered, yes. I'll stay. What followed was not a fairy tale, not at first. Moving into the Hale mansion was overwhelming. Emily had lived her whole life modestly, and the grand halls, marble,